So Serena, refresh me your background. You used to come from Gig Harbor, right? Or you lived somewhere quite far away?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm in Marysville.
Marysville, yes, yes. I remember that
Yes.
quite far away, but I didn't know where exactly. Yeah, but that's good. Okay. So
Yes.
now we will jump into so in chapter 3, Arjuna is asking Krishna a very pertinent question because Arjuna didn't want to fight and Krishna is encouraging him to fight. So Arjuna is saying, okay, Shiva, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Right? So here, essentially, Arjuna is asking a very valid question. Why should I fight? And this is the battle that happened 5,000 years ago in the center of India, very close to Delhi, in a place called Kurukshetra, where two families assembled to fight each other to death, and a total of 640 million people from around the world assembled to kill each other. So you had people from Greece, from Afghanistan, from Iran, from Pakistan, from other parts of India, from Vietnam, from Thailand, from Cambodia, um, from Burma, various places. So everybody's assembled there on two sides of the battle. So different people took different sides based on their loyalty to different kings in the past. So Serena, can you read the purport for me? Are you able to see the screen? Serena, are you able to see the screen? So can you read the purport for me if you are able to see the screen? So what we have here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has described the constitution of the soul in chapter 2. So in chapter 2, it talks about how the soul cannot be cut, how the soul cannot be divided, how the soul cannot be burnt. So having described all of that, Krishna wanted to deliver his intimate friend Arjun from the ocean of material grief. And the path of realization has been recommended here. So Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness is understood to be, misunderstood to be inertia. Sometimes people say, oh, you're taking to devotion, so you're not going to work with us, participate in our activities. So people think it is some kind of inertia or pulling away from, day-to-day interactions. So that is the misunderstanding people carry in the world. And one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna consciousness by chanting the holy name. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it's not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place, where one may acquire only cheap adoration from innocent public. So sometimes people do this for show. They sit in a place and they chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, like that. That is only to get some adoration from the public. So Arjun also thought of Krishna consciousness or Buddhi Yoga Yes, something like retirement. He felt that this is just like retirement from active life and practice of austerity and penance at a secluded place. So, in other words, he wanted to use what Krishna was telling him to skillfully avoid fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. So sometimes people say, oh yeah, God didn't want me to do it, so I won't do anything. I'll just withdraw from the world. However, because he's a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master, spiritual master Krishna, and questioned Krishna as to the best course of action. So in answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained Karma Yoga or work in Krishna consciousness. So that is the topic of the third chapter, Karma Yoga. So based on a question by Arjun saying that, hey, why are you engaging me in this battle? I want to just withdraw from this world. So going on to the next one. Vyamisreneva vakyena buddhim mohaya sivame tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyohamapyunam. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. So, here refers to Arjuna. Arjuna is saying, I thought I was intelligent, but now it is being bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Means Arjuna felt that Krishna is trying to confuse him, or at least he is unable to understand what Krishna is saying. So, and he's putting this matter in front of his guru, Krishna, and saying, tell me what is beneficial. So in the previous chapter, as a prelude to the Bhagavad Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, work without fruitive desire, right? So there are various ways to work in this world. One is controlling the senses, or work without any result or desire for result. Whenever we work in an office or a factory, we want some money. But there is something called Nishkama Karma Yoga, where you work without any desire. And then he's also asking about the position of the neophyte. So until now, in chapter 2, all of this was presented in a way unsystematically, or it went too fast. So a more organized outline is required for action and understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparent confusing matters so that any common man could accept them. Like a brilliant man can go through chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita and pretty much understand what it is. However, not everybody is brilliant. So Arjuna is asking this question on our behalf so that Krishna can clear up this confusion. So Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is a mystery, and not everybody will understand it. So Arjuna is asking these questions so that for future generations, he's asking on behalf of the future generations, so he can get an answer, which is a good thing for us. Otherwise, we would not have had such elaborate description of Krishna consciousness. Now that Arjuna has asked his question, we are getting more deeper answers. So any thoughts or any questions on what this verse entails? Okay, that's good. Let's move on. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Vividha Nishta Pura Prokta Maya Naga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna said, "O sinless Arjun, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service." In the second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. Karma Yoga, the other synonym for that is Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi means intelligence. It essentially means that using your intelligence. Karma means using your actions, but then you need intelligence to perform actions. So they are kind of synonymous. And Sankhya Yoga is a numerical enumeration of the various steps. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, or analytical study of the nature of spirit and matter, is the subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work in Krishna consciousness, as it is explained in the 61st verse of the second chapter. The Lord has explained also in the 39th verse that by working by principles of Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness, one can be relieved from the bonds of action. So we all do action and we get entrapped in the results of those actions. So Krishna has given in multiple locations, one in the second chapter, 65th verse, and in 39th verse, how by working by the principles of Buddhi Yoga, one can be relieved from the bonds of action. The same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st verse, that this Buddhi Yoga is to depend entirely on the Supreme, or specifically on Krishna. So while we are doing our action, we should depend completely on the Supreme, not think that we are doing it. Therefore, both yogas are interdependent. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. So if you don't have philosophy and then you just do religion, you just say you have to do it. And if somebody asks a question, why you have to do like this? Then we say, shut up, don't do it. You just got to do it like that, right? So that is a sentiment. And then that can turn into fanaticism, means like people will just go on, blow up big buildings, things like that, because there is no philosophical basis. And in contrary, philosophy without religion is also mental speculation. So if you just do philosophy saying maybe it is like this, maybe it is like that, but without religious basis, it is just speculation. It will not take you to the desired destination. The ultimate goal is Krishna, because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching for the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. So if you are searching for absolute truth, then you will eventually come to Krishna consciousness, whether you like it or not. The whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to super self. What is our relation of the Atma or self in relation to super self or Paramatma? Param means higher, super. Atma means soul, so super soul. Relationship of soul to super soul. The indirect process is philosophical speculation by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness. And the other process is directly connecting everything with Krishna in Krishna consciousness. So you could do philosophical speculation, which is indirect, or directly you can worship Krishna. That's why Prabhupada says of these two, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on the purifying of the senses by a philosophical process. So normally people do philosophical process because they want to purify their senses. Our senses are impure because they are contaminated by various energies and various previous activities that force our thinking in a particular direction. However, if we use this process of Krishna consciousness, it does this also. It also does the purification, in addition to bringing us closer to Krishna. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process. And by the direct method of devotional service, it's easy and sublime. 3-4. Na karmanam anarambhan naiskarmyam purushosnute nacha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhi gacchati. Not by merely abstaining from work, one can achieve freedom from reaction. So somebody may say, hey, if work provides reaction, I'll stop working. I'll just sit in a cave and just meditate. So by merely abstaining from work or staying away from work, you cannot achieve freedom. Nor by renunciation can one attain perfection. Just by renunciation also, you cannot attain perfection. So in other words, you have to stay in your duties and chant Hare Krishna and follow the regulative principles. Hear Bhagavad Gita like you're all doing, etc. The renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of prescribed form of duties which are laid down just to purify the hearts. Right? So you can accept renunciation only when we are purified, not before that. Otherwise, it will just become a show and it's not really effective. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, sannyasa. Sannyasa means renunciate, like a monk. According to empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyasa or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayana. But Lord Krishna does not approve of this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to the social order. So we need to have purification of the heart. Otherwise, renunciation is simply a disturbance to the social order. On the other hand, now here's the option 2. If someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord. Right? So if you do a little bit of service to the Lord will take that as a service to him. And he will ensure that you are progressing. So if you are serious about devotion, then you can take up renunciation, give up your family, give up society, and take to the direct path. But most of us cannot do it. Therefore, we go through the indirect path. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even the slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties. So there are great difficulties in the path of us going back to the spiritual world. But even if you start somewhere, even if you do a little bit, you have already come onto that road. And nobody can take you away from that. You can continue your journey either in this lifetime or in the next lifetime. So 3-5. Nahi kasyat shanamapi jatu tishtati akarmakrit karyate hi avasaha karma sarvaha prakriti jar gunai. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So the way we act is because we have acquired some qualities from nature. Some are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. So we cannot refrain from doing anything, not even for a moment. So why try to forcefully stop. Better to engage those activities in the service of Krishna. That is the goal here. It is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. Without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be engaged in occupations dictated by illusory energy. So if we don't engage in Krishna consciousness, then we may engage in like killing animals or drinking alcohol or gambling or engage in illicit activities outside of marriage. So spirit soul needs some engagement. So instead of those negative engagements, you move them to positive engagements. In contact with material energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes. And to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in Shastras. So that is why a mother has to take care of her child. Traditionally, a husband has to take care of the wife. Why? Because these are prescribed duties. And when we do these prescribed duties, our soul will go through gradual purification. However, if you are sufficiently inclined to do so, if the soul is engaged in his natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him. If you're able to do it directly, go for it. If you're unable to do it, then do your prescribed duties for gradual purification. So Srimad Bhagavatam says this, Tyaktva sadharman charanambujam harer bhajan apakvo atapate tato yadi yatra kvava bhadram abhudamusya kim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. If someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in the Shastras, what does it avail him if he is not Krishna consciousness? So, even if you are not able to do perfectly, do something for Krishna. What is the use of carrying out all the injunctions for purification if in the end you don't come to Krishna conscious? So purificatory process is necessary for reaching this point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyasa or any purificatory process is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. So any questions so far? So it's better to, even if you okay, better to do devotion to Krishna imperfectly than trying to solve all the problems of the world perfectly. That is the message. And when you serve Krishna, purification already happens in the heart. So it is a process which has two benefits. A, you are serving Krishna, and B, purification is already happening. Because an impure soul cannot go back to the kingdom of God. So we have to purify our soul. And the process is the destination. So Krishna consciousness is the process, and Krishna consciousness is the destination. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyartan vimudatma mityacharasa uchyate. So one who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So sometimes people restrain their senses artificially, but the mind still is saying, I want to enjoy this, I want to eat meat, I want to drink alcohol, I want to engage in sexual activities, I want to do this, I want to do that. So externally, he has stopped his senses, bodily organs. But mind is still dwelling. And Krishna is saying such a person is called a pretender. So there's no need to pretend. Do it naturally, do it step by step. And once you come to a higher level, ignore the lower level. You just forget the old stuff. Right? For example, if somebody is addicted to doing certain things, give it up step by step, not like all in one day. But then don't turn back ever. Right? Over a period of 10 years, you would have given up all the bad things. So, Lord Krishna says there are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness but make a show of meditation while actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment. So, externally they are renounced while the mind is feasting. Externally they are fasting, internally mind is feasting. Such pretenders may also speak on dry philosophy to bluff sophisticated followers, but according to this verse, these are greatest cheaters. For sense enjoyment, one can act in any capacity of social order, but if one follows the rules and regulations of his particular status, he can make gradual progress in purifying his existence. But he who makes a show of being a yogi while actually searching for objects of sense gratification must be called the greatest cheater. So, this is also one form of cheating. Externally, you are renouncing, internally, you are enjoying the temporary material world. Right? So, actually, you are enjoying, you are not really renouncing anything. He who makes a show of being a yogi while actually searching for objects of sense gratification must be called the greatest cheater. Even though he sometimes speaks of philosophy, his knowledge has no value. Because the effects of such a sinful man's knowledge are taken away by the illusory energy of the Lord, such a pretender's mind is always impure, and his show of yogic meditation has no value whatsoever.